everybody, and welcome to the Environmental Learning Center at Cockwis Community College. I'm Maggie, an educator here at the ELC, and this is week 7 of our Wildlife in the Watershed live stream series, where each week we learn about a different animal that calls the wetland their home. So we've already learned about tons of cool animals, including beavers, coyotes, and great blue herons. And this week we are learning about our feathered friends, the owls. Owls are super important predators here in the wetland, and they find plenty of food and shelter here. And I'm so excited to be learning about them with you all today. The ELC is a wetland, meaning it's an area of land that is covered in water. And one of the coolest things about wetlands is the fact that they slow down, cool off, and filter the water, resulting in clean, cool water for all types of plants and animals to enjoy, including the owl. So before we get started today, there was actually a super awesome animal sighting at the ELC just this last week, and I just have to share it with you all. It's an animal that has never been spotted here at the ELC before, and an animal that I've personally never seen outside of the Oregon Zoo, because they have an exhibit of these animals there. So seeing it out here in nature was super, super exciting, and I just have to share it with you all. So let me show you a couple pictures. So just a few days ago, we saw a brown furry animal swimming around in our ponds. So it was diving under the water for minutes at a time, sniffing the air and doing all types of interesting things. And we were like, what is that? You know, is that a beaver? It looks a little too long to be a beaver. Is it a nutria? But as it poked its head out of the water a little bit more, we were able to see what type of animal it was. Do you know what animal this is? It is a river otter. So river otters are super cool predators. Here in the wetlands, they mostly eat fish. That's probably what this guy came here to eat. There's plenty of fish, and also amphibians, so frogs. Crawdads could also be something he's eating. But yeah, and he has been spotted in the last couple of days, which makes me think that he has been sticking around. So I'm curious, you know, to see if he pops up again. He might even pop up in the back of this live stream, who knows? But this is a super exciting animal spotting, and I'm so excited to share it with you all. Okay, but on to our amazing friend, the owl. Before we get started today, I'd like to introduce Michelle, our camera person, and also the one monitoring the Zoom chat. So if you have any questions about owls or even a river otter question, please put them down in the Zoom chat, and I will make time at the end to answer them all. You also should hopefully have an activity sheet in front of you titled Give a Hoot for Owls, with the top section being for an owl memory game. So in just a second, I'm going to be showing you the objects that I have under the cloth on the table here, and you're only going to have 10 seconds to write or draw down as many of the objects as you can. And then the bottom half of the section, or of this paper, is who is it? And we're going to be listening to various different owl calls, because they don't all make that, you know, iconic hoot sound that you think, you know, of when you think of owls. And you'll be able to guess which call goes with what owl, which is super fun. Alrighty, let's get started taking a look at these guys. So I've got 2 different owl mounts here with me today. This first one right here is a barn owl, which is a pretty common owl around here. We can tell that owls are birds based off of the fact that they have beaks and wings and feathers, but owls are also really well known for their big eyes and their big sharp talons. So I actually have a pair of talons right here from a great horned owl. So these owls are the biggest owl in North America, and they are kind of the iconic owl you think of when you think of an owl. And here are some real owl talons. So in order to describe what this feels like, I would say the tip of the talon feels like, you know, when you've just sharpened a pencil, and it's super sharp, and you touch the tip of it and you go, ooh, man, that's a sharp pencil. That's exactly how these talons feel. So owls are super cool predators that eat all types of animals. They're carnivores, meaning that they only eat other animals. And so their sharp talons and their sharp beak really help them catch their prey. As for the habitat, of an owl. A lot of them really enjoy wetlands because they can find amphibians and other creatures near the water. And a lot of them also find shelter in wooded areas, specifically the hollows of trees. So I have this second owl mount hidden in this little hole of a tree because that is where most owls will nest. They'll raise their young, they'll sleep. Most owls are nocturnal, so they'll be sleeping during the day in these trees. But plenty of owls also find their homes in abandoned buildings and barns and other places as well. But if I just go ahead and remove the wood, we can take a better look at this little saw-whet owl. This is also a very common owl around here, but it is much smaller. I think it only reaches about like 8 inches tall. And they will eat, smaller things like insects and bugs and worms, and sometimes the larger prey or prey as well, which is super cool. But yeah, that shows that owls can come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. But let's jump right into the owl memory game. So under this cloth right here, I have, I believe, 8 objects of owl-themed items. And so I'm going to remove this cloth, and you're only going to have 10 seconds to look at, memorize, and write down everything that you see. So this is super important for testing your observation skills and how quickly you can notice things. So alrighty, at the count of 3, I'm going to take off the cloth. 3, 2, 1, go. Alrighty, how many objects were you able to find? Let's go ahead and go through them together. Okay. Firstly, we've got this teeny tiny bug, which represents the fact that smaller owls, like the saw-whet that I just showed you, do in fact eat little bugs. They can also eat earthworms and other small animals. This right here is a chipmunk, because a big part of the diet of the larger owls is small mammals. So rodents, like mice and rats, as well as chipmunks and squirrels, moles, all types of things. But yeah. This is a feather to show that owls do in fact have feathers, but their feathers are actually super cool, even more cool than your average bird, because it allows them to fly silently. So if we take a look, this is a great horned owl, the largest owl around here. Their wing and their feathers not only keep them warm and allow them to fly, but allows them to fly silently. So they're able to swoop in on their prey without the prey even hearing that they're there. And they also are able to use their amazing sense of hearing in order to keep track of where the prey is. So if they're not able to see, let's say a mouse running through a meadow, they can hear the mouse running through the meadow. And so if their wings were making that big whooshing noise that a lot of birds' wings do, they wouldn't be able to hear as well. So I really do think that an owl's superpower is the fact that they can fly silently and catch all types of things. Just making sure to keep this stuff out of the rain. Okay. This right here is a hollow tube to represent the fact that owls have hollow bones, which allows them to be super light and fly really well. These right here are a pair of softballs. So the great horned owl is a super large owl, like I've mentioned here in North America, and they actually have eyeballs pretty similar to the size of ours. However, their skull is way smaller, so their eyes are ginormous in comparison to the size of their head. And so if we had eyes of a comparable size to the great horned owl, they would be as big as softballs, which is so interesting. these are a pair of binoculars, which also show the fact that owls have an amazing sense of sight, and also that they have binocular vision, which is where the eyes are at the front of their head rather than the sides of their head, which show us that they're predators and not really prey. Their eyes are also fixed in their head, meaning that they can't look to the right or to the left like we can without moving our heads. They have to move their head in order to change where they are looking. And in order to, be able to see everywhere that, we can see, they're able to turn their head really, really far. So most owls can turn their head a total of 270 degrees, which is almost completely all the way around. So they can look completely behind them and then keep turning and look even farther in the other way. So super cool thing about owls. This object right here is a bull. What if you're able to identify that it was a bull? But bulls hold things and collect things, and owls actually have a super cool kind of bowl-shaped face to their feathers that allows them to hear better. So we can see an image on the slideshow of on the right, there is an image of a barn owl like I was showing you earlier, but basically the feathers on their face kind of curve out on the sides, kind of making a disc shape. So when sound waves hit their face, it kind of goes straight to their ears, which is super, super cool. And then on the left here, I have a photo of a skull that shows that owls have uneven ears. So unlike ours, one of their ears is actually a little lower than the other. And that actually allows them to triangulate where they're hearing a sound from. So one sound, or the sound will hit one ear before it hits the other. And using that information, the owl can kind of pinpoint where the prey is, which is super cool. If you've seen like a dog tilt its head or any other animal tilt its head when it hears a strange noise, it is theorized that it's trying to figure out where the sound's coming from. All right, cool. The final object that we have here was this little piece of tinfoil, which is actually a owl pellet. So owl pellets, owls swallow their prey whole, so they'll swallow a mouse completely whole, which means they're swallowing bones and fur and all types of other stuff that they can't digest. And so it will solidify into a pellet, and then they'll throw it back up and just kind of leave it wherever. And then when we find these pellets, we can actually investigate and see what the owl has been eating by breaking it apart and seeing what types of bones and fur are in it, which is super fascinating and super cool. But I want to make sure we have enough time to do our final activity, which is on the bottom half of your activity sheet, which is the owl call recording. So I'm going to be playing the calls of 4 different owls, and you're going to have to identify which owl is making what noise. Super fun. Let's get started. So the 4 owls that you're going to have to be guessing from today are the barred owl. So this owl is actually a super fascinating owl that I've seen here at the ELC. They've only just started to spread to the West Coast since about the 1970s, so they're kind of a new guy. But they have a super interesting call, and it's super cool to see them. All right. Here is the photo of the barred owl that I saw here at the ELC. Oh my gosh, why is this? Turn this on. But yeah, just on a tree really close to where I'm standing right now. And as you can see, it was able to turn its head all the way around to look at me, which is super, super interesting. The next owl is that big, big owl that, yeah. Do you have the Merlin ID app? Can you open it? Okay, perfect. But yeah, so this guy is absolutely ginormous, and he's got those big tufts at the top of his head. So you might think those are ears, but those are actually just feathers sticking out of the top of his head, which is super interesting. But yeah, these guys are huge, and the most common owl across the entire United States. So if you've ever seen an owl before, you might have seen this guy. Next, we have a saw-whet owl, which is the one that I showed you, hiding in that tree. They're very small. They're probably only reach about, like, yeah, 8 inches. And they are very cute. And as well as the western screech owl, they're also very small and very good at blending into the bark. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start playing the calls of, yep, the various owls. But let me go ahead and see. All right, so get ready, get your listening ears up. We are going to be listening to our first call, and you're gonna have to identify which one of these 4 owls is making the sound and put it down on your activity sheet. All right, here's call number 1. All righty, were you all able to hear that all right? That was call number 1. Okay, now we're going on to call number 2. Okay, sounds like we had a little bit of an issue hearing the first call, so I'm going to replay that one after this. But this is call number 2. Okay, everyone heard that one? You can go ahead and go to call number 3. Okay, that was call number 3. And then we are on to call number 4. All righty, let me go ahead and go back to call number 1 because it sounds like we weren't able to hear that one quite right. Okay, this is call number 1 again. Did everyone hear call number 1? Doesn't sound interesting. Okay. Well, it sounds like you got 2 out of the 4 calls, and we were all running a little low on time. So I'll just go ahead and reveal what each call was. So the first call was a western screech owl, which is the bottom left owl on your sheet. So that was call number 1. Call number 2 was a great horned owl, which is on the top left of your sheet. I made that really typical deep hoot sounds that you think of when you think of an owl. And then the third call was the barred owl, which is the top right owl on your sheet, which made the doo 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 kind of who cooks for you sound, which I really love. And then the bottom right owl is call number 4, which was our cute little saw-whet owl. So hopefully you were able to hear most of those calls. It's really cool to think about how many different calls the owls can really make, instead of just thinking of that one typical hooting sound, which is the great horned owl. But yeah, there's also other owls such as barn owls that make pretty scary sounding screeching noises and screaming noises as well. But those ones are just some of our local ones that I really enjoy. But already, we might have just a little bit of time to answer some questions if you have any in the chat. But But all right, it sounds like we don't really have any right now. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you are super hyped about owls and will look up how, whatever questions you have about owls, either at the library or online, because they are super fascinating creatures. But until next time, I hope that you will join us to learn about frogs, which are also a really amazing amphibian. I'm excited to share with you all. But until then, take care, get outside, and respect all those who live there. All right, until next time. Bye.